Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm gonna do some of the spec work. I think I'm gonna continue tearing the Supra apart maybe a little later on today. But I thought I'd make a video. I'm gonna spec the engine out now. The guys at Competition Automotive, they're awesome guys, Doug and Doug. Absolutely, they know what they're doing. They've already gone over the crank. They've already bored out the cylinders and done all the measurements. I like to do it myself just one more time just to make sure that everything is in spec, and I figured I'd make a video and show you kind of how to do it. So I'm going to start with the crank. I'm going to check the mains and the rods journals. So typically what you want is, you know what I mean, 1 thou per inch of clearance when you put the bearing in. I'm opening up the tolerance by about 1 thou. That's why I got an X bearing. So when you're buying bearings, you'll see there that it's got an X on it. I don't know if you can see that. No. Anyway, that X just means that there's an extra thou of clearance. I'm opening up the tolerances. I'm doing that for a couple reasons. It's good practice. I like when I build an engine. I did the same thing with the Mustang that I just built. You definitely want to open up the tolerances a little bit. It's going to let it rev higher. It's going to make sure that there's adequate oil in between the crank and the bearing, so you're not getting contact. Also, I'm going to block off the oil squirters in the engine. I know a lot of people, this is controversial. Some people like the oil squirters, say they were put there for a reason. Other people say, no, take them out. They were put there for a reason. But when you go with forged internals, it's less important. You don't need that oil cooling. One, the top of our pistons are ceramic coated, which is hopefully going to keep the heat down. And two, we've gone with forged internals. So it's not as necessary to have those oil squirters. And when you block them off, it builds more oil pressure to the crank, to the cams, to the more important parts of the engine. I did make the mistake, if you follow the channel, I made the mistake with the Mustang. I left the oil squirters in, and we put them on the dyno and 4 or 5 pulls on the dyno, and we lost oil pressure because the oil squirters broke off, which just causing the oil to spew out and lose oil pressure. So yeah, I got my clipboard here. I'm going to start speccing this out. So I'll show you as we go along. So first thing you want to do, your micrometer. Me anyway, I'm going to take, this here is just, you know what I mean, to make sure that everything is where it should be. Make sure that the micrometer is still in spec. So I'm right on 0 there. So I know the micrometer is good. So we're 2.441 inches. So they're all the same. I didn't expect any less. Like I said, the guys at Competition know what they're doing. So they said the crank was good. It's been balanced. Everything's been spec'd out. So they are all the same. So if we're going by kind of a standard, it's not a standard, it's just kind of a good base point, which is 1 thou per inch of clearance. It puts us at about 2.4 thou. Let's say 2.5 thou. Again, I've opened this up, so we're going to be looking for 3 to 3 thou of an inch, 3 to 3.5 thou clearance when we put the bearing in. Now I don't have the ARP studs to start building the engine, but I can use the stock bolts just to put the caps on, the mains on, just so I can get a measurement of where the bearing clearance is. All right. So, 2 different types of bearings, 2 different sides. One of them's got the release for the oil, the other one is solid. So, release for the oil, going to go on the block. The solid one is going to go on the caps. With the 2J, the infamous 2J, actually I'll pull this one out and show you guys. So all of these tabs are typically in the same spot. Little tab right there, and it lines up, it corresponds with a groove that's cut in the block. 2J has one tab that sticks out the opposite side, so they're not all on the one side, and it's because the bearing is a little bit larger, and that goes up here on the front. It's the first bearing. It is a little bit wider than the rest of them. So I'll get that in there. And we'll get that in there. And I'm going to start same thing with the bearing. So number one, again, is a little bit wider. The groove is in a different spot. Like that. They've been nice enough. They've got an arrow showing you what ones to face the engine. They're all numbered. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all the way down. So now that I've got my micrometer set back at 2.441, I'm going to take my bore gauge and I'm going to zero it to that. So you can see I'm right on. Right at 0 there now. Right. So I'm right at 0. Now I'm going to take this, now that it's set, I'm going to take it over to the mains. I'm going to stick it in, and it's going to show me what kind of clearance we've got inside of the bearings. So, okay, so I got the main caps on. I've done the first one here. What I am having to torque them down to spec to get the proper tolerance that I'm looking for to crush that bearing. So torque spec on this is 33 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. So if you look at the studs, at the bolts, I've already torqued them all to 33, and I've put a mark on them just so that I know where my 90 degree is going to end up. So that's it. I've got them all torqued down, 33 foot-pounds plus a 90. Now I'm going to go along and we're going to find out exactly what our tolerances are.
So here we go. There we've got about 3 thou, just over 3 thou.
So to get to these back ones here, I'm going to have to take these front ones off, but I'll go along, make sure that they're all the same. First 3 are perfect. I'm sure the last 4 are going to be the same. So I'll get those off, and then I'll show you how we do the rods. So like I said, I'm just doing up the last rod here. Bearings, they go in the same as the main bearings. So I've got my bearing in, and I've got the bolts for the bearings soaking in 30 weight oil. It's the procedure they asked for. So I wouldn't suggest, some people just like getting it wet with oil. I mean, it says submerge them. I like to make sure they're submerged. I'm going to screw that on like so. Now to get proper crush, I am going to go over here to the vise. I've got the soft teeth in there just so that it's not doing any damage to the rod. I'm going to slide that in there. I'm not going to tighten it too much. It's only 60 foot-pounds. You want to go back and forth. You just want to make sure that the cap's going on evenly from both sides. I want to crush one side more than the other. There we go. And 60 foot-pounds. So those are all torqued on. I'm gonna come back over here. And it's basically the same procedure as we did with the crank. So I've already set the 0 to 2.047, and now I'm just gonna slide her in here and see what my clearances are. So right there, what about 2.5 thou? 2.5 thou, which is right where we want to be. So I'm going to go along. I'm going to do all 6 rods, do it the same. Like I said, so far everything's in spec, but yeah, I'll finish up the rods here, and I don't know, maybe tomorrow I'll assemble the rods, and we'll check I'll do all the file fitting of the rings, check the bore clearance, and continue blueprinting this engine. But I think once it's together, it's gonna be quite a beast. So again, if you're new to the channel, guys, we are building. I'm just blueprinting the 2J that's going in the Veilside Supra giveaway that we're doing. We're building a '97 Toyota Supra strictly on the votes of subscribers. So everything that goes up, you guys get to choose on. We're gonna build it at the end. Somebody's gonna win the car. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Keep an eye open for the votes. There's always new votes coming out. And we'll see you next time.